Welcome back to another BENSBOSS podcast. I'm your co-host, Sammy, here with my twin sister.
Hey, it's Kate.
Cool. Episode number 2. I'm excited. But how do you think last week went? How do you think our last...
It went not bad for our first podcast, but could be better. It'll be nice to see how we improve over time.
I was just thinking today, I think we didn't do that bad, but I feel like in the future we're going to watch it back and be slightly horrified.
Like cringe.
Like very cringe.
I mean, looking back now, just in the last week, it's comical.
You texted me and you were like, we should do this for our next episode, so would you like to introduce it?
I don't remember what I texted you.
You said something like starting over / starting something new. We should do this for our next podcast episode.
Oh, yeah. So here we are.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
That's what we're going to do. Well, the first thing I thought about was you moving to New York, because that was huge.
Yeah.
But then I also thought about, why is starting over so scary? Why is it so scary? What's the answer? I need an answer.
I don't know if there's an answer for everyone. I think everyone's answer is unique. For me, I think I've started over so many times that starting over isn't necessarily scary. It's the thought and fears of leaving my comfort or leaving whatever comfort zone I'm in that scares me.
Everything that's familiar to you.
Yes, the uncomfortableness of a new situation or a new place or a new career or a new job that I think is scary. It's not so much starting over.
I think it means you're recognizing that you're not happy or that you're not on the path you want to be on. Even maybe that you've messed up and made a mistake. I think starting over is taking responsibility for that.
Don't necessarily think that anything that you do in life is a mistake if you learn from it and recognize from it and, move on to something else. I think that you learn by making mistakes, in a sense.
Well, also, too, if you think about, like, if I picture myself 20 years from now doing the exact same thing I do now every day, that scares me more than starting something new.
I mean, yes and no. I think if you are uncomfortable in your current situation or whatever you're doing right now, if you're not happy with that, if you're not comfortable in that place or in a good place, I think the fear of looking down the road or looking back 20 years from now, being in that same place, that, you might be kicking yourself for. But if you're in this position right now, working towards where you want to be in 20 years from now, then there's nothing wrong with that. You're in a transitional phase. You're working towards something. You're not where you want to be right now, but you're working towards it. If you're not working towards it and you look back, on 20 years.
I guess I just meant always evolving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of staying complacent for the next 20 years. Why do you think people fear it so much? Do you think it's because what we just said, or what you just said, not being comfortable anymore?
Honestly, I think that it's a lot easier, let's just say in terms of careers or owning a business, in that aspect of things, it's a lot easier to go and work for somebody else than it is to start a business, run a successful business, and continue to grow that business while you still deal with, problems inside the workspace. You don't necessarily have the responsibilities of running and owning a business. And I think that scares people. I think that failure scares people. I think that society telling people that they cannot go and start something new or own a business, I think that scares people. But I think that a lot more people are not afraid to start over. And even being in real estate, that's something that I recognize. There were people 18 years old just getting out of high school, not wanting to go to college and not necessarily knowing what they wanted to do with their life, start in real estate. And then there's people that are 50, 60, 70 years old that have had multiple careers, successful businesses, and so on and so forth, that have decided to change direction and get into real estate. So I just think that everybody's story is different.
I mean, that answers the question I was going to ask you too. Do you think it's like a generational thing?
No.
Obviously not.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Do you want to hear my theory
Sure.
on why it's so scary?
Sure.
I'm going to paint a picture for you.
Okay, let's paint it.
I think back in like the early 1800s, let's call her Meredith. All right, she was churned butter every day for like 40 years. She was the only one in town churning this butter, and it was good. Okay. One day, she was like, I don't want to churn butter anymore. I want to cut wood. I want to be a lumberjack. But people in town realized that if she did that, nobody would be there to churn their delicious butter. So they gathered together and they were like, we have to tell her she's going to die.
Where did you make this?
No.
Where is
We're
this
going to
coming
tell,
from?
we have to tell her that she's going to be hunted by witches and die if she goes to be a lumberjack. Because we need our butter. So they did, in that they scared it into her. And she just stayed churning butter for the rest of her life. So I guess the moral of the story is, I think society is the reason we are so scared of change.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, except you just made a very elaborate story about butter into it.
Did you say that?
I did. I said society.
Okay. Well, there's that. Anyways, when you're about to start over or start something new,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do? Is there anything you try and figure out or tell yourself? Or do you just say, we're going to do this and let's jump right in? Do you prepare in any way?
I think a little bit of both. I think I've done things where I've just jumped into them and it's gone as well as it could have gone. And then I also think that I've done things where I have overanalyzed, over-researched, overstudied, over-prepared, and did, but I don't think it was necessary to do that much research. I really think that you just have to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to start.
So something I do is I'll ask myself why this matters. Like why starting over matters. Is it going to be better for my future, for my mental health?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll also ask myself, if I don't do this, will I be okay? Will I regret it? And then I just go from there. But in the greater scheme of things, like if you take yourself out of the world
Mm-hmm.
and you're in outer space and you're looking
What is wrong with your analogies today?
and you're looking down at the world,
Yes.
but you're like an outer body experience, so you're still on the world.
Okay.
It's your spirit and it's looking down at you, and you decide to do something like am I boring?
Sorry.
And you decide to make a great change, like job change, start a business, whatever. Is it going to matter if you fail or anything like that?
Oh.
No. Well, I do have 2 questions to ask you.
Okay.
I'm also going to ask myself.
Okay.
You can go first, though.
Oh.
The first question is, what's one thing you started over or something new you've started? Did it make a difference, and did you learn anything?
Well, I have started over a lot. I started over by moving from Cleveland to Las Vegas when I was like 22 and completely started over. Moved out there with like no money, no job, no nothing. And within a week had a job and had it all, not all figured out, but.
And I don't actually think I realized how, like we were both taking risks when we moved to Vegas, but I don't think I realized it was a much bigger risk for you at that time.
Yeah, it was sink or swim.
So I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Go on.
And then, let's see, I got offered an opportunity to work for a tech startup, and it wasn't, I did not apply for this job. I was not interested in this job. It was somebody that I had met, gave me a call and kind of gave me really good advice, I think. He was kind of like, I know that this is not what you want to do with your life, but it's a really great opportunity for you to do it now and kind of learn from it. It would be a really great experience. And I think that at the end of the day, take some time to think about it, and it would be something that would really benefit you long term. And he was right. It's not what I wanted to do, but I learned so much from that. I was 24, 25 when I started that. I worked from home. I coordinated trade shows for the company and had to plan all of that out and take care of all of that and kind of be responsible for everyone and everything in terms of, that entire week of what we were doing. We would go and we would market and kind of do sales for the company. And kind of from there started transitioning into more just at-home work and trying to run code and do all these things. So I learned a lot. I had to put
You got to travel a lot too.
I also got to travel a lot, yeah. I mean, it was an amazing opportunity and I'm really grateful for it. After that, I kind of left and didn't know what I was going to do. I went and got my real estate license right away, kind of sat on that for a while. I didn't actually do anything with it. I passed the test, I got licensed, and then I hung my license because I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. From there, I started a cleaning business. Again, I was starting over from scratch. I learned how to obtain business licenses and insuring a company and insuring people, selling your business to people and taking on clients and trying to build a business. I am a neat freak. I love cleaning, so I thought that it would be great for me. No. People are disgusting. People are very dirty, and I do not like cleaning up after them. I quickly realized, but I kept doing it. Again, it was a learning experience. I closed it right at the beginning of the pandemic, and right after the pandemic is when I started really in real estate. Started with a brokerage. I joined a team. I started making calls. I did pretty well my first year. Again, it wasn't necessarily something that I enjoyed doing, but I learned a lot from it. I'm still trying to figure out where I fit in the real estate world.
So we're not giving up on real estate.
Not in total. I don't necessarily like the sales aspect of things. I'm a really genuine person. I'm not very good at trying to force people into doing things that they don't necessarily want to do or anything like that. And part of the reason why I originally got into real estate is because I want to have my own real estate portfolio, owning rental properties, flipping houses, even doing Airbnbs and stuff like that. So
maybe we'll be on HGTV one day.
Maybe. I mean, you never know. Never say never.
Never say never.
Everything I think I've ever done and everything I think that anybody should do is there's always an opportunity to learn. Even if it's not necessarily something that you want to do, or if it's something that you have to walk away from, or if you want to call it fail, you're never really failing as long as you're learning.
I think it's good to fail.
I think that you learn from failure.
Yeah. I think you should want to fail at least a few times.
Yeah. I don't think that there has to be a negative stigma on failure.
Sounds like you learned a lot.
Yeah.
From starting.
Sure have.
I was working a job where I was making very good money, and I was able to save up. The biggest change was leaving that job. Do I miss it? No. But I was able to save that money up for all of these businesses I want to start. On the Daily, my first business, and that I have learned a lot from. I learned that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew when I started.
There's no book on
No.
what you're supposed to be doing.
I went into it with a lot of confidence, which is good, you should, but I was also humbled at the same time. So that's what I learned. You don't know everything, and you just gotta give it all you got. Keep going. That's that. And everything I learned from that, I'm able to put into BENSBOSS, So Wealth Tea, and everything else. My second question I had for you, if you could start over or start something new today, right after this podcast, what would it be?
Well, I kind of feel like I'm in a starting over phase right now anyways.
As in?
Life.
Okay.
And everything else that comes with it.
Okay.
I mean, I started over by moving out here to New York a few months ago, stopped doing real estate. I'm kind of in a place of figuring out what it is I want to do next. Part of that is starting this podcast and working on getting, merch for the podcast, figuring out how to restart in real estate and invest in properties. So I'm kind of starting over as we speak.
Okay. I dig that. My answer is going to be similar to yours. I wouldn't go back and change much. You know how they say live with no regrets? You ever seen that movie? Where it says, in the tattoo, they spelled it wrong.
Regrets.
Anyways, no, but I think starting something new, I'm pretty much with everything we are working on / I'm working on now. I'm going into it every day with a new idea, a new outlook, a new plan of action.
Mm-hmm.
And I emphasize plan of action because before I didn't really have too much of a plan and I was kind of just winging it. So that's my answer. Did you just yawn again?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. But I'm reading a book right now. It's called
Tell us about it.
Atomic Habits.
Ooh.
Atomic. It's very insightful.
Yeah.
But it kind of talks about how people have a tendency when they're starting something new to over prepare and then never really start, because you're planning, and in your mind you think that you're progressing, but you're not actually starting. You're just preparing.
Can I reply to that?
Sure.
Because that's kind of what I did with On the Daily. I started it, but I didn't tell anybody about it for like 2 years because I was like, it has to be perfect. I didn't even tell you.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be perfect. And I thought that I was making it better and better and better when really I was screwing myself up.
There's nothing wrong with educating yourself, but
Yeah.
you also can't procrastinate. You just have to start. You're going to make mistakes along the way. You literally just have to start.
I kept trying to reach perfection, and that doesn't exist.
That's not going to happen.
So that was my fault. Did you have anything else to talk about? Or anything you want to say to the viewers?
All 2 of them? No, I don't. Hey, guys.
Hey. Cool. Yeah, I guess if you want to start something new, just do it. Just go for it.
Do it. Don't be afraid to start over.
Never, ever, ever. And on that note, I will not be doing an outro today. We are done. We will see you next week.
Bye.